Hello, good morning. I am Steve Weber. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. And the American Gumption Morning Show showcases ordinary individuals who are living extraordinary lives. And the reason that we highlight the ordinary and extraordinary is because our world needs more positivity and encouragement. So I believe every person is both ordinary and extraordinary. So welcome to today's show. And my goal of the show is to help all those who want to awaken, and to help everyone live a life filled with gumption. All righty. So welcome to today's show. It's Tuesday, July 6th, show number 198. July 6th just so happens to be the anniversary of when the movie Forrest Gump, there it is right there, when that movie came out, 1994. So I guess this is 27 years ago. Yeah. How about that? Seems like just a few years ago. All righty. Well, anyway, welcome to today's show. Hey, Brandon Schaefer's going to join us in just a minute with some simple motivation. He likes to come on Tuesdays. So we'll have Brandon join us and tell us what's on his mind. And then tomorrow on Wednesday, Peter Panagori joins us. Peter is the author of the book, Heaven is Beautiful. Heaven is Beautiful. Oh, here it is. I've got it right here. There it is. Heaven is Beautiful. And Peter wrote this book. It's about the story of when back in 1980, when he was a young lad, and he was out ice climbing, and he ended up getting in trouble, and he crossed over to the other side, and then he met God, and God said, "All right, here you are." And he said, "I got to go back to Earth." And so he's going to share that story. It's going to be. I read the book. It's a fascinating story. Looking forward to hearing Peter tomorrow. And then on Friday, Kimberly Palm. And she's going to talk about living a purposeful life. So we have some great guests coming this week. Now we have a great guest coming up today at about 15 past the hour. Serenity Sam joins us. And Sam is no stranger to the show. She's been a guest many times, but we haven't seen her in several months. And so she's going to talk about the artwork she's been doing. She's been drawing, painting, oil on canvas, and I've got 10 of her pieces of work, pictures of them. I don't have to pieces of work. I got photos. She's going to describe how she learned how to do this. So we'll join Serenity Sam in about 10 minutes from now. All righty. So let's see. And my monologue is going to be on. There's Brandon's thing. Let's see. My monologue is going to be, here it is. Creative juices. What do I do to get my creative juices flowing? And Brandon and I usually talk about something similar. So it'll be interesting to see what Brandon has to say. All right, let's introduce Brandon. Hello, Brandon Schaefer. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. Must be Tuesday.
Steve, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Feels like I don't know. We hit July 1st, the halfway point of the year, and I've been kind of refocusing things a little bit. And while it's not all fully implemented, I just feel like I've got new energy. So it's a great time.
It's so funny, man. Your 198th show, man. Congratulations. Is that today?
Today.
Is it 198 today?
Yeah.
Wow, man. That leads into exactly what I want to talk about. And that is that consistent effort always yields the best results. Listen to me clearly, man. Consistent effort always yields the best results. And you are a model of consistency. And having me on here every Tuesday, I've been a model of consistency as well. So if you're struggling, if you want to get started in a personal goal, a business goal, anything at all, it's consistent effort that you're going to need to put in. It's not being up at the gym every single morning at 4 o'clock for a month and then stopping for a year. It is day in and day out, 365 days a year, at least thinking about it, perhaps not doing it. but consistently staying on track. Consistency. And it's so funny, Steve. As you were saying, the guest for today is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm like, oh, he's talking about me. Oh, this is great. And then he goes, Sam, she is amazing. And I'm like, so it's all about me, Steve. You know that,
Hey, it's always the way us humans work is it always is about us, and that's okay. That's part of the human experience, and learning how to temper that and to be aware of it. And it gets easier once you become aware that you are in control of your life, and you get control of what is happening up in here day in and day out. Then it becomes easier. Not like easy, but easier.
Yeah, that's most of the battle, is just controlling the thoughts, perhaps not acting out on them as they come, and just your first thought doesn't have to be what you act on. You can take a break, that 3 to 5 seconds, and again, that leads back to consistency. Having that consistent type of behavior where people understand that, hey, Steve's patient, he's going to see things through, and then they know that they can count on you. And it's the same with me. Yeah. In stuff that I work in my life, both personally and in business, it's the same. They know they can reach out, and I'm going to be patient with them. Although my first thought is these people are absolutely totally insane and crazy, but that doesn't always have to be true.
Well, I appreciate that you join us on a regular basis, and your segment, Simple Motivation. Your business page is simplebusinesshelp.com. Hey, I looked at it this morning. You've done a few changes. You got a new website.
I got Superwoman on there, or I think it's Superman or Super Kid. I'm not sure which one.
And you got a new logo, which
yeah.
So I saw that a few weeks ago, but first time I'm commenting on it. So congratulations. Keep up the good work consistently. You don't have to change things in fact, you don't want to change things all the time, but you do need to refresh things and keep things, focused on where you're going. So keep up the good work with Simple Business Help. And anybody who needs some simple business help, whether it's in content creation or in some technology and getting pieces to connect, you got one little piece of software that doesn't quite work with another one, Brandon and his team of geeks can help you do that. And then Brandon is really the guy who has a message, help you with your message. And that
exactly.
So,
yeah.
All righty, my friend. Well, have a great day. I got to do a monologue and then get Sam on here because it's all about Sam.
I'm going to stay around and watch. I'll catch up with you on YouTube.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right.
See you, Brandon. All righty. So, thanks, Brandon. Again, simplebusinesshelp.com. Let Brandon and his team help you out if you need any technology or creative help. So, all righty. Well, that's a good segue into the monologue, and that is creative juices. And this is really inspired by what Serenity Sam is going to talk about because she started drawing. And she said, man, this is this is getting my creative juices flowing, not just strictly in the art part, in the painting, but in her life part. So we'll let her tell that story. But here is what I have to say about creative juices. All righty. So how do you find inspiration, and how do you get your creative juices flowing? How do you find inspiration, and how do you get your creative juices flowing? And if you're a creative person like I am, and like the people I like to hang out with are, it's important that you develop a set of best practices to help get your creative juices flowing. So I got a couple of kind of big ideas, in terms of we'll call them shock treatments to kind of get you out of a funk or get you thinking a little bit differently than you are. And then I've got some ideas on, best practices for the routine as a creative person. So the first 3 things I'm going to talk about are, kind of bigger picture things that, help me, just change my perspective. The first one is travel. And boy, I used to get in an airplane all the time. And every time I got in an airplane, looking out the window, going through the airport, just the whole process of it, the plane taking off and, it just I started thinking, and it just would kind of help me forget what I had been doing and start refocusing on things that I do want to do. And so it was a way of just an automatic way of in sparking regular creativity into my life. This is the title or the travel portion. Well, you don't need to get on an airplane. You can get in a car, and sometimes it could just be a little drive. My 92-year-old father, we don't do it every Sunday, but a lot of Sundays I just we throw him in the car. We don't throw him in. We invite him to come join us in the passenger seat, and we just take a little drive, and it's fun for him and it's fun for me. So that's just taking a Sunday afternoon drive. We don't do that. Back when cars were brand new, people did that on a regular basis. Nowadays, it's like, cars are like a chore, but just go drive someplace you don't normally go and see things that you don't normally see. And I did a big drive across the USA back in March. It took 3.5 weeks. I saw a lot of different people, and boy, that really got my creative juices flowing. And what I mentioned to Brandon when he came on is that I feel like I'm really now starting to implement and put in place, make some fine tuning of the American Gumption show and just tweaking it a little bit. But things are starting to fall into place in terms of, and that all started back in March when I just took that drive. That almost 4,000 miles that I traveled. That was a great shot in the arm in terms of just seeing the country again and expanding my thinking. So anything that breaks your routine, maybe just go and visiting friends. One of the things since I've been living back on the East Coast for the last year and a half plus is that I've gone and visited cousins, people that I grew up with and spent every Christmas and Thanksgiving with for the first 20 years of my life. And now I'm going and visiting them at their homes and meeting their kids and getting to know them. And hadn't done that for, a long time, being, living out west, far away. So people that I knew, but I haven't seen in a while, getting back and seeing them. So anything that breaks your routine is a good way. And travel is that. Now, activities. And I'm going to have two categories of activities. One's called mindless, and the other one is called focused attention. So mindless activities, mowing the grass. I don't mow the grass today, but when I was living in Montana, mowing the grass was a great thing. It took a couple hours. You sat on the mower and you went up and down, and like Forrest Gump driving up and down, mowing the lawn. It was just like a nice thing because it looked nice when it was done, and yet it needed to be done, and yet it was like a chance. You didn't have to think a lot about what you're doing other than turning the mower and keeping going in straight lines. So cleaning the house can be a form of it. TV or a movie. I don't watch too much TV anymore these days. I don't even watch movies, to tell you the truth. But that would be a good way of, just sort of some mindless activity. You don't have to, you don't have to think too hard about it. And then there's some projects that you could do, like painting a room or some kind of an activity where you're physically doing something, and there's some thought that's required in it, but it's not like that concentrated effort thought. It's just sort of like, it's busy work, that kind of thing. So any kind of mindless activity is a great way for me to get creative. And then activities that fall under what I call focused attention. And probably the best example for me would be writing. I've been writing regularly for the last 10 years, and that's probably the one discipline. And the show is kind of a variation of that writing because I create content on a regular basis. Another project that I do not regularly, but I have done is website development, where, I've created my own websites. And so there's like this science, or there's this technology element of it, and there's writing involved in it, but there's also that element of how does it function and work. And so I've kind of gotten pretty good at that over the years. Now that's the kind of thing that I don't do day in and day out like I do with the writing. But what happens is once a year or so, I kind of dive back into that and make some changes to it and have to remember how to do it. It's not the type of activity that I do, where I help other people necessarily do it, but I do it, for my own needs. And that's one of those things that once you dive into it, hours go by, right? You can be focused and even though there's not creative, what happens, this is a different type of creativity because you're not while you're doing it, you're kind of exercising your creative muscle, but you're not getting new creative ideas other than what are involved in solving the particular project. But when you're all said and done, you kind of have a feeling of satisfaction and a belief that, oh my gosh, that the fact of doing it sparks a whole bunch of new ideas, and they kind of come afterwards. So, so that's really, I think, all I wanted to pretty much say today. As far as some best practices or routines, put your butt in the seat every day. That's probably for writing. That's the best thing I do. My writing, for the show, I obviously have some certain things that have to get done. The show goes on live at 11 a.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. Eastern time. And so having a deadline is like a good way to have some creativity. And I have a regular routine. Like there's the script, and then there's the monologue, and then there's the interview, and there's some preparation for that. And I've developed routines, almost like templates, and I have to just fill in the blanks for each day's template to do it. So it's a combination of like routine and a combination of creativity. And the templating allows you to make it easier to fill in the blanks, type of a thing. And then procedures for writing. I always like to start out with the big picture, and then I like to rough it in. And I compare the rough in part with the big picture. And sometimes the rough in part ends up developing the big picture. And sometimes I have the big picture very clearly. And so those work kind of hand. And once those are done, once I have the big picture and once I have it roughed in, then it becomes an editing thing. With the show, I don't have the luxury of doing multiple editings, but like my weekly Gump dates, I do, probably 4, 5, 6 edits on them, keep getting them finer and finer and finer. But I always start out with that big picture and the rough idea first. And then once it gets to that point, it's kind of easy. It's kind of fun to do the editing. So they're both different forms of discipline and exercise and creativity. So that's the routine that I follow. The last couple things is I've developed a meditation practice the last few years. So I'm trying to keep my mind clear and calm. And so that the meditation practice helps with that. And then fuel. How am I fueling myself? My food and my drink. Drink a lot of water. Been alcohol free for 4.5 years now. Basically just decided that it wasn't a healthy routine that I had, and creatively it was not helping. So just said, you know what? I don't need this anymore. I don't want this. And took a while to kind of evolve out of that, because it was a habit. It was an addiction, and had to get rid of that. So at this point, I'm more conscious than ever of what I'm fueling myself with in terms of how am I taking care of myself. Exercise and rest, hugely important. Exercise and rest, just take a walk around the block type of thing. And, in the middle of the day helps you. And then, are you getting enough rest? So anyway, creativity takes discipline. It's a muscle, and the more you use it, the better you get, and the easier it becomes. Creativity takes discipline, just like what Brandon was talking about in his message. It's just like showing up and doing it every single day, and then it becomes a muscle that you get better at, and the more you use it, the better you get at it, and the easier it becomes. So that is my here we go. That is my monologue, Creative Juices, and hopefully that's interesting. Now, we have Serenity Sam in the house. Hello there, my dear. It's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing so good. Really enjoying life, and everything is just so wonderful. Thank you for asking. And thank you for having me on the show, and congratulations. Happy birthday.
Yes, tomorrow's my birthday.
Oh, lovely.
So it's kind of funny. Today is the birthday of the movie Forrest Gump, and tomorrow is my birthday. So it's kind of July 6th and 7th. Karma, maybe. Who knows, right? Meant to be.
That is really wild. Isn't that strange?
Yeah. So when we left off, you were really knee deep in, kind of. Well, before we even get into that, let's just talk about, tell people, let me read just a little couple lines about you. And then I want you to talk a little bit about your early musician days and how it evolved into kind of getting you here. But Serenity Sam is a practicing positivist, We love that. She is a lover of life, music, art, happiness, and all that is. Serenity Sam is also a teacher of the law of attraction. And that was one of the things that we really had in common right from the get-go. I'm not a teacher of the law of attraction, but I'm a student of the law of attraction. And so, and Sam's website is serenitysam.co.uk. You can see it floating along the bottom. So please reach out, connect with Sam. She's a musician, an artist, a law of attraction expert. So Serenity Sam, welcome back to the show. It's like I said, it's been a few months. We went through the whole story the first couple of times we met, but tell people who maybe are meeting you for the first time, where'd you grow up? And then what were you doing as a teenager that like put you on the road, traveling around and entertaining people?
Oh, just the love of drumming. Like as soon as I sat on a drum kit, I was just like transcended into the stratosphere. And I didn't know what it was at the time. It was just my happy place. And the happiness of that just drove me forward. Just got into a band at age 13, then joined my first professional band at age about 15. And they were a country band, and I was into heavy metal at the time. But because they were so professional, I knew it would be really good for me. And the guitarist was an amazing drummer. And so he became my drum teacher for about 2 years. So I went to his house after school, and he'd make me chips with gravy on bread, which is like a Canadian standard. And he taught me so many amazing things. He was really amazing. And so from there, I ended up going to Toronto, a few thousand miles away from my hometown, to like make it in the big city. And I ended up joining a band, and then went on tour around Canada. And it just went from there, just the love of it and the fun. It was just totally my dream to play music and to make people happy and have fun just doing something that was just totally my happy center inside. So, that just took me through for years and years up until my 20s. I ended up, we could talk about it forever, but ended up going into the blues scene and being all part of that and playing with some incredibly musicians all around that. But also all the way along this, I've always been writing songs. I've always been a songwriter, and I've always played keyboards, especially in piano and a little bit guitar. And I was always plodding on behind the scenes. And actually, Steve, just recently, I've sort of put my foot down, and I've said that I am only going to play my own music from now onwards. It's my music or no music at all. I'm no longer going to be in the shadows in some sort of thing, no matter how much it pays and all of that, because my real happy place. And this kind of segues into what we're going to talk about, Steve, because I had to put a break on my drumming as well, because I had a shoulder injury, which is a big catalyst to me going forward into my art.
Okay.
Now, I always thought that I would turn my attention into art in the back end of my life. I just always had that feeling. I didn't know it would happen so soon, but they're both parallel. They're running along each other at the moment, the art and the music. But, my art for the last 2 years, I've really been focusing in on it and really developing and learning all about it. It's been so exciting to learn the nuts and bolts of it. A bit like the drumming, I took 2 years out to really, really study. And then I just went off and I just had an amazing time. So
how did you, I certainly get the idea that like, we have in our mind, like someday I'm going to do this. And, so someday you were going to do the art, and you figured when you were, kind of in the, the second half or the final, the final third of your life, whatever it might be. And yet all of a sudden one day you go, no, now's the time. So I get all of that. Had you painted it all before, like as a child? Did you dabble with it? And
I've always dabbled.
Okay.
And it was my first love. as well. It was my first love. And my mother always really, my mother is an incredible artist as well, but more of a like interior design. Our house, you just have to see our house one day, Steve. It's just phenomenal. My mother is a genius when it comes to color and shape and form. And she made our house like a palace of color and art. So I was sort of like surrounded by it. And when my mom saw the abilities in me, she just honestly, and like right now I am living her dream, if you know what I mean. She is just over the moon about my artwork right now. Like, and that is really important to me that she has seen it in her lifetime, because obviously she's getting to the back end of her life now. And that's just like a really important thing for me to have achieved in my life, is that my mother saw my artwork flourish into, you know, places where I always felt like I would love to go as well. So it's so fun. It's so nice.
I remember you also mentioned that, you know, both of your parents, you know, there was music was part of the family. So you grew up in a artistic or a creative environment from childhood.
Also very working class as well. Like my dad was a manager of a factory. My mom was a stay-at-home wife, you know. So it's like, it was a funny blend. My dad always loved music. He always dabbled in it as well. Banjo, guitar, acoustic guitar. And we always had music in the home as well. My mom was more of the art and my dad was more the music. So I guess that's where I got it from.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, let's let me share my screen, and we're going to talk about the specific paintings that you've been doing, like just really in the last few months, and maybe some of it started, you know, before that. So you said 2 years, and I'm learning that. I didn't realize that you had been kind of I'm going to say goofing around. Maybe that's not the right thing to do, but you've been, you know, doing, but who is Bob Ross, and how has he influenced you?
Well, I'd like to talk about Bob Ross when we come. Oh, you're going to show them all. Are you showing them all? You're just flipping through. Oh, there's Bob. Okay, yeah, let's talk about Bob while Bob's on the screen. I love Bob Ross. Bob Ross is just, to me, I've got like a spiritual connection with the man. He's just so sweet. And, you know, I can't remember how it all happened, but maybe someone told me about Bob Ross and I had to look at a video or something. And I started watching them and I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. I want to have a go. Because up till then, Steve, I've actually been practicing going to classes for about 4 years, off and on, once a week, once every 2 weeks. I had a little time where it was only once every couple of months or something. You know what I mean? So I was fairly consistent doing watercolors mainly. Mm-hmm. A little bit of acrylic, but mainly watercolors. So when I saw Bob and the oils, it was like a new world. And my husband had done a little bit of oils. And so, you know, this whole oil thing was sort of a mystery. So I thought, I want to do it. I want to do it. And then I started doing the Bobs and oh my God, I just loved it so much, you know. And this is something I did with pastels. This is soft pastels and pastel pencils. It's portrait of Bob Ross, of course, and his little raccoon friend. And this is the first portrait I've ever done of a person.
Really?
Yeah, this is the first portrait I've ever done as a person. This came about as well. If we went back to the very first thing that we looked at, I started studying Ian Roberts. Ian Roberts, that's Ian Roberts' tutorial as well. Ian Roberts suggested that we do a 30-day scroll, right? So like a big piece of paper like this and like really long, and you do a bit every day, and you roll it up, you do a bit, you roll it up, you do a bit, and that Bob portrait came out of the scroll from Ian Roberts. So it's really wild how everything gets like, you know, you don't know where you're going. You have no idea where it's all going, but you get clues along the way, little things along the way just point you in all sorts of directions. Now, this Ian Roberts work is all about composition, and it's all about form and value. So this piece here is all about value. It's all about It's contrast and composition. How do you bring someone into a painting? How do you keep them in the painting? How do you get the values right? Do you understand what's the darkest thing in this picture? What's the lightest thing in this picture? So that's what that's all about.
So Ian Roberts and Bob Ross were both artists who essentially have videos that teach people how to draw and how to paint. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, Bob Ross is no longer with us. He is deceased. And his heyday was around the 1970s to about the 90s, just to mention. But there's a whole load of videos out there that people can tap into, especially on BBC iPlayer over here in the UK. There's a good few seasons in there to look through.
So this particular painting, the Ian Ross, is this oil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian Roberts, and this is oil. Yeah.
So you mentioned that there's the contrast. So we can see the very dark, deepest part. There's a little bit of lighter in the foreground where it's probably a little bit shallower. And then of course there's the snow, and it's nice and white here at the closer portion, and some of the distant places, maybe where the sun's shining. But then we see the trees in the back. So it's really quite, it's really quite, like not a lot of color in it, not a lot of things going on in terms of, it's just like white and blue.
I know, it's really amazing. It's really hard, actually. It was really hard to pull off. I learned a lot doing it.
Yeah.
I love Ian Roberts. Ian Roberts is a master at simplifying and about abstract realism, which I absolutely adore as well.
Wow. Well, we've got about 10 different stills, so we'll try to go through all of them. So who's Quinny? This looks like Quinny.
Oh my Lord. This is a whole story in itself. I'll try not to go on with myself. First of all, this is a pastel. This is photorealism, which I've never tried before. So photorealism is you're trying to get something as close to reality as humanly possible, right? So that was the objective of this piece, for starters. And I always wanted to try it. I love the abstract stuff, but I also feel as though I want to really hone my skills into really, nailing the shape and form of things as well. So this is photorealism. And Quinny is my sister's cat. Oh, the cat is too small of a word. It's a baby. It's really her baby, She has 4, and they're all equally gorgeous. Quinny almost died last year as well. He all of a sudden out of the blue got really, really ill. And so, I just felt it was really important to do this for my sister as well, to honor Quinny. And it was just such a beautiful photograph. So what inspired me to do Quinny.
What I really like is look at the little whiskers from the ears, which we all know a cat has these extra, little like loose, tufts of hair that kind of come out, and then the eye with the, that's not a human eye, that slit, that's part of the, the feline. And so, and then just even the, the nose and the mouth. I mean, you did a really nice job. Look at the wispy, fur around the edges there. And boy, it's quite detailed, isn't it? I mean, you don't start by putting the whiskers on. You must start with the basic form. And so I guess one of the things is, how do you know, maybe it's a little bit like my what I described in the writing, you kind of start with the big picture, and then you edit, except you're adding.
Well, I studied probably about 4 hours worth of tutorials of other people that had done realism with pastels before I did that. So I'm all about getting the knowledge as well, and then going for it. You're not expected to pluck this just out of your head out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? So it's really worth seeing what other people have done. If you've got something you want to do, if you want to do pen and wash, if you want to do oils, if you want to anything, even if you want to write a sign that you've never done it before, go and research what people have done and go get your ideas and then cobble it together for yourself. So that's what I did. I went and saw I watched some other people's tutorials on pastels and realism. And it was so helpful because I got all sorts of little tips and tricks to do to pull it off. So I was really pleased as well. Really pleased that I pulled it off, because I never done it.
Once you start actually, drawing, how long does it take?
That probably took about 6 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Something
that's great.
like that.
And do you do it like in one sitting, or do you do it for a few hours?
This one in particular was over a few days.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, we'll keep rolling on. I know who this is, but tell people who Esther is for anybody who isn't sure.
Oh man, she is my hero. She's my absolute hero. And she just had to have a portrait as well. I was on a portrait roll. Those three that I did, the Bob Ross, Quinny, and Esther are the only portraits I've ever done. Right.
Really?
So,
wow.
They're all really important to me on different levels. And Esther Hicks is the teacher of the law of attraction. And she, for lack of better words, channels infinite intelligence. And that is called Abraham. Right. So I've been following the Abraham teachings now for about 3, almost 4 years, possibly. And it has transformed my life. And a really exciting thing about this as well is that I sent this image to Abraham Hicks and they showed it to Esther, which was like, honestly, I was never so excited just to know that Esther has seen this image itself. I don't know, just strengthens its power to me, that we've had a connection. So that was just like the most amazing manifestation. That was so fun. Like when I got the email, I was just like, I I emailed like 5, 6 people. It's like, oh my God, she's seen it.
All right. Well, congratulations. And then here's that Bob Ross. So we'll just go back real quickly. We'll show Quinny and then Esther and Bob Ross. So those are the only portraits that you've ever done.
Yeah, they're the only portraits I've ever done and the only things I've really ever done in pastels as well.
Interesting. Well, very good. All righty. So now what are we looking at here?
Well, this is wonderful. This is a dream that I've got going with members of my family that I've asked them to send me pictures for me to paint. And this one is from my sister Louise, who is an amazing photographer. She is like an award-winning photographer. And this is my hometown as well, my home province. And so this is a drawing, but I really like the drawing. I've only just sort of kept it here because I like this drawing. I just, there's something about this drawing that I just feel connected with. So this is what this is. This is a sort of a dream of people that I know, asking them if they would, while they're out and about, take a few snaps for me, and I'd like to have a go at painting. So that's just another thing that's kind of going on. But I'm doing other things at the moment.
Is it what we would call a pencil, or what is this particular style?
Yeah, so I guess you would call it a pen and wash. So, okay. Which I have studied extensively with another artist as well, which I followed for maybe 8 months or something, Peter Sheeler, which and I've kind of, so all of these artists, they're sort of like a bit of that, a bit of Bob Ross, a bit of Peter Sheeler, a bit of Ian Roberts. It all starts sort of coming together because he's like, I love the pen and wash. I love the looseness. I love the contrast as well. And I really like a really strong subject. So yeah, this is pen and wash.
I when I was living in Montana for the last 5 years or so, I took pictures on a regular basis and posted a daily inspiration. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna find one of my Montana pictures and send it to you, because that represents a special period of my time. So anyway, great. Well, let's keep rolling along. Now, this is along the coast somewhere. Tell us about this and tell us what it is.
Well, this is a plein air drawing, which means that I was out and I did it while I was outside.
Oh,
So this is a new thing for me as well, to sort of go out into nature and observe and to draw and paint. So this is the very first thing I've ever done of going outside, and I loved it. So this is quite close to me. It's about 20 minutes away in a place called Silverdale, and
okay.
the very edge of the cove there at the side, that's Jenny's Point. So people would know what this is. And the sort of fun thing about this, if you stare in the middle of it where the sun looks,
Mm-hmm.
you will start to see a circle, but you don't see it straight away, which I think is kind of a cool thing as well. So if anyone wants to stare in the middle of your listening, you'll start seeing an orb. You'll start seeing,
Yep.
a circle appear. You can see even better when you see the drawing, but I like weird things like that, like only the people like that are really looking at your artwork will notice things, and I like throwing in some gifts, let's say gifts to the keen observer.
So how do you like, you have the intention of adding the orb into it, and you somehow do this like in this subtle way, so it's not like obvious, but that's interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, very
I
good.
like little surprises as well. It's when you're looking at a painting and you see something that you didn't realize that it was there. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and I somebody described it to me as once you see it, you can't not see it, but until you see it, or sometimes you have to be told it's there, you won't see it.
Well, so that's the whole thing about life, isn't it?
Yeah.
When your eyes are closed, you ain't gonna see it.
Well, very good. All righty. Well, good. Now this is quite colorful. We got a waterfall. We got the evergreen trees. We got the blue sky. We got a mountain in the background. Man,
this is such a wonderful story as well. This is a Bob Ross.
Okay.
And I did this for a blind girl. And which really touches my heart. I lost my sight when I was 11. And maybe this is why I'm just even so much more grateful than maybe your average human being about what I see, because I came close to losing my sight. So it meant a lot to me to do this painting for this little girl. And the mountain in the back is Blue Ridge Mountain as well. And it's from the song, well, it's in the song, Country Roads. And, the woman who commissioned me to do this comes into my music session every week that I'm in a detox center, and we sing Country Roads with all the people in recovery trying to find a better life. And so, Country Roads has a really big meaning to me as well, because I've been singing that song with people in recovery for about 10 years. So when she came along and she had this daughter, that was blind, who absolutely loves Bob Ross, she went out, and when I told her I'd like to do Blue Ridge Mountain for her as well, it was just ticking all the boxes, it was just such a wonderful thing. It really was. I enjoyed doing it so much.
And this is an oil on canvas?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you kind of with a pencil, do you kind of rough out where the mountain is to begin with?
No, just go for it.
You just go for it. All right. Well, just very
go
good.
For it.
All right. Do you ever if you go for it and something doesn't kind of work exactly what you initially wanted, do you just sort of make it fit in then, or how does that work?
Well, there's two things that happen. You either throw it away and you banish it from your studio, or you work over it. It depends, because sometimes things won't go over other things very nicely. Let's say if I wanted to completely white out that mountain, that would be very difficult.
Okay, gotcha.
Even with scraping it off. But not all of my paintings are done completely just on the hoof. Other ones are very methodically drawn out as well. Just mentioned, they're not all.
And have you had, how often do you have to scrap something and start over again? Or does it more often than not, kind of come out to be an acceptable version for you? And this is your own particular style, or, the way you've been going with it?
Well, put it this way, I've probably thrown out almost all of my artwork over the last 4 years. And it's only recently that I've started to even consider putting it up on the wall or sell it or sell it. So most of it is thrown away.
All righty. Very good. Well, thank you.
But
there.
less is being thrown away recently.
This looks like a very Americana kind of stream with an old, water next, some kind of a mill, I guess. Where is this? Is this a Bob Ross too?
No, but this is wonderful. This is a teacher that I met through Bob Ross. She was on the joint painting, and it's Dorothy Dent, who I'm absolutely on fire about at the moment. This is one of my latest paintings as well. And so I am following Dorothy Dent and learning all the tricks of her trade. And my dream is to be painting my local area. So this is very similar. I mean, not the snow, obviously, but this is very, very similar in nature of the sort of thing I want to be doing. Old barns and streams and, hills and trees and, cutesy wootsy, really rustic beauty. Because where I live, Steve, is the most phenomenally beautiful place. And I really want to capture the beauty of it around here. So this is on the trail of my vision of what I want to complete. And I really feel as though it was a big reason why I've come to the UK to be part of the magic of the nature here. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. Like, you can really believe this place where I live, this is where the elves came from and the fairies and you can just imagine this little witches like creeping around in the forest and things. This is so magical. Honestly.
Well, very, very good. I love, this reminds me a lot of the area that I grew up here on the east of the U.S. because they have these old buildings, these old, I spent a lot of time out west in the U.S. and there's, the West wasn't settled until 150 years ago. So these kind of older, couple 100-year-old, mills and houses on the side of a stream, they just don't exist out west like they do here. So
I believe this is Missouri as well. It's called Old Rope Mill, just so you know.
All righty. Very good. Great. And now this looks like something I would see in England or in Europe as opposed to in the US.
Yeah, this is the very, very, very real first original painting I ever did. Up until this point, I've been following teachers. This is a little bit like the first day you go out when you get your driving license without your teacher. So I was well pleased how it turned out because all the work I had done leading up to it meant that I knew what I was halfway doing. Yeah. So this is pretty close to me in a village called Heysham. It's only a couple of miles down the road. Everybody would know what this road is. It's Bailey Lane. Which is wonderful. So I love that. I love the idea that you could just take a fairly normal, this is not a landmark. This is just a street, but people would know where it is. Because if you lived around here, people know where that is. You can tell. You can absolutely tell it's it. And this is watercolors and this is pen and wash. So it's like, using some sort of a permanent very fine liner and watercolors, and it's done in only a few colors as well, so it's quite monochrome but not entirely. So I think there's about three or four colors there at most. So,
and what is
really good. Limiting the palette is very powerful as well.
What is the substrate, or what's the proper word? Like, is it paper? Like the paper that you're putting it on? Do we call that or canvas? Do we call it the substrate? What do we call that? The part that you're applying something to. Is it just called paper or canvas, or do they generically have a name like for all of them? So tell me about that.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's called the medium would be. Medium. It would be the paints that you use, or the but the surface Is it?
So
I don't know. So maybe someone else can tell me. I know there is a word. It's going out my head at the moment. I don't often use it.
we'll call
But
it the
you do
surface.
use very good watercolor paper for this sort of thing, just so you know.
So it's a watercolor. It's a watercolor paper. You get it at an art store. And how big is this? That the particular one that you did roughly, like in size?
Probably about 20 centimeters by about 30. And just on a side note as well, I gave this to my mother. And she's got it framed in her house. And that is just the glory of that is just wonderful. You know, just knowing that things got that far and that my mom can, you know, enjoy it in her home. And it was my first thing. So I feel really proud of it.
Did you take a photograph, and then did you like what size photograph were you using to kind of get your inspiration from?
It's only an A4.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. So
Yeah.
nothing. I'm just curious, asking some questions. So, all right, let's see what else. Oh, I think this is the last one that we have. So this is, I guess a little more of an abstract, or what do we call this?
Yeah. A little bit more. I did a series of these, which were really fun, and they're really quick little drawings. And this is a really nice thing to do as well. Just give yourself 5 minutes to just absolutely go for it. So I did about maybe 10 or so of these, and that they also ended up in an exhibition at the Silverdale Art Trail, which is a really amazing thing to have achieved in my local area. It's the most fabulous thing where people, you go around all people's houses, and we're talking about country living. We're talking like the creme de la creme of beautiful places. You get to go inside people's houses and their gardens, right? And you get to have a nosy all around and get to talk to the artists. But my work was in a community center, and I was also doing a crazy performance with other musicians. I was dressing up. I wore about 5 or 6 different outfits, and I had my work on display. So this was so fun. You know, it just gave me, I was able to be in the exhibition, do quick things. This is acrylic as well. And the theme around it is space. And it's about, the sort of like standing on the edge of the abyss of the unknown and just walking into sort of the who knows whatness of life. And very, very, for me as well, I don't usually put in people a lot of times. I'm a bit like Bob Ross. I quite like to keep nature, and I like the space of just sort of like having your own space. So this is the first sort of time I started putting a couple of people in things as well.
What's interesting about the people is, they're really just shadows. There's only one color that you used, and it's like an arm and the body and the head, and there's not a lot of detail, but you can see that it's people, and so that's kind of cool. Like very different than the portraits that you did.
Oh yeah, and I do like that silhouette-y sort of thing as well. There's something that's quite powerful, quite fun to sort of see the shapes and make those suggestions of things. It's good. It's good fun. They're really fun to do them. I varnished them as well. They came up really good. Yeah.
And what was the the substrate acrylic? What did you put it on here? What kind of paper, or what was it you were painted on?
They're a really, really thick card.
Okay, a card. Okay.
Really thick card.
Yeah, very good. So before we shut down this, these pictures, are there any that you would like to go back to and say anything more about, or maybe we'll just, talk generally about them all?
Let's just see what happens conversation wise.
All right. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to remove that from it and put us back up here. So, that was fun to go through. And, so a couple of years ago, you really dug into this and you started, getting serious about it. But before that, you probably had, from an entertainment point of view, you had been, aware of these different people like Bob Ross and taking inspiration from them, but not necessarily acting out on it. Then all of a sudden, a couple of years ago, you start getting these art supplies and trying things out. And when we only met at the end of last year, and you didn't mention the art at all for the first couple of months that I knew you, and then all of a sudden, boom, you kind of exploded with it. What happened at that point where you went, hey, I'm going to really go public with this and double down on my efforts with it? Because every couple of days it seems like you're putting something up on Serenity Sam Art, which people could, there's a Facebook page. So
yeah, well, I think it's just, for me, following the Abraham teachings, and it's all about getting in tune of following your happiness. And, and it's a real process, it is an absolute process following your happiness, because you have to try things out, and then you have to see how you feel, and then you have to move away from those things, or you have to then move towards other things. So everything just aligned. So yet again, I tried different things out, and it wasn't quite right for me. And I experimented with different things. It wasn't quite right. And then I carved out the space and time. And then the thought came into my head, the thought came in, and the thought was so pure, and it was such pure positive energy. You know it when you see it and when you feel it, and you just roll with it. And I've just been rolling with it on a daily basis. And I'm just so happy to keep on rolling with it. I just keep it on a daily basis. Every day I'm waking up and I just really want to paint. Every day. And not only that, it's like other opportunities have come to me, and I've thought, I don't want to do them. I just want to do my painting. I just really want to paint what I want to paint. So it's just about really, really following, your heart, and knowing that you've got the right to do that. And you've got the right to play around and try things. And if they're not right, just stop and just do something else. And then you'll know it when the right thing hits you, you will not be able to stop doing it. It's like a train that takes off. It's like, there's no way you can stop it. You just have to do it. Now, Bob Ross sort of got me on the train. I feel really psychically linked to Bob Ross. I do feel as though the man is chatting in my head a little bit,
It's a little bit, like, what Brandon and I maybe said at the beginning of the show. If you just keep showing up and doing it every day, then and you're enjoying it. It's critical that you're enjoying what you're doing. You can't show up and not be having fun with it, but you're on this mission. And then all of a sudden, you get like a clarity that you wouldn't have gotten, like the first week or the first month, but after a couple of months, like you start to see things, and that it's just a knowing, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. It like exactly what you said before, it takes on a momentum of its own. Sometimes it takes a little time to get it kick-started, and there's lots of bumps on the road to begin with. And it is a case of, really trying to discover how much you want to do this. Because like everything, you've got to really want to do it. Because like like I say, the first 4 years, I would not want to really show a lot of my work. Because there's only very few things that I show that I'm proud enough to sort of say that I think I can stand behind that, So yeah, the momentum, but so important for me. You mentioned it before as well, meditation. Like I meditate every morning. Every morning I listen to Abraham and I meditate. I get them in my head, and I get the tone set right of my vibration and all of that, and knowing that I can stand in alignment under all conditions these days, almost every condition. I'm saying I can stand in alignment. I can be happy no matter what's going on around me. And when you start getting into that mindset, you clear out the energy that we waste on these other things. And then you've got the headspace, and your heart is pure, your head is more pure to take things forward into your highest level of joy on this planet. And you know what, Steve? It may change in a couple of months. I may decide to go straight on into my music. I swear to God, I have sent one of my songs to Abraham Hicks, right? And if they get back to me and say, we want you to come and play on a cruise, I am so going into that, and I'm going to be right in my butt off working towards that. I would just go Dorothy, Dan, you can just stay over there for a little while. Or I'll come back to you in a year. But I ain't going to that, you know what I'm saying? Because that is a mondo, like, what? So it'd be like the dream come true. Do you know what I'm saying, Steve? So you go with the passion, and see where it takes you. Lord only knows where, you know. It's fun.
If we look at some of the, artists, the great artists over the course of their lifetime, they did work in different mediums, and different styles, and they would work in one particular thing for a while, and then maybe they went, okay, that's, they learned that and they moved on to something else. You've been a musician, you've been drumming, but you learned keyboards and guitar right from the foundation, and then somehow you ended up becoming a drummer, and then you are songwriting, and now you're doing this painting. How do you think like each one kind of helps the other, I guess, is really, and then we'll kind of wrap up with this idea, but how does a creative person do different things and apply and bring in some of the old past energy that they had into this new thing, and kind of expand everything together? And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh God, it's just all about love. Just love, all the way down the line. Yeah. It's love. It's everything to do with love. When you're a creator, I am a creation as well. I am a creation that is creating, and the spirit world is getting as much as a kick out of it as me. And I believe in my guidance, and I believe in love, and I believe in my goodness, and I believe in my own ability to be a master. So, I know that I'm here I'm here to expand love. And this is the way I express it. I express through art. So it keeps on going on and off. Is it going on and off for you, Steve?
Yep. You're breaking up. So
it might
we're really kind
be
of
recording. Are you there?
Kind of at the end of this. Oh, nope, you're disappearing. So you're losing connection. We're kind of at the end of where we wanted to be. We'll see if you can jump back in here for a second, and I can say goodbye to you. Otherwise, I'll just have to say goodbye to everybody. So serenitysam.co.uk is her website, and I encourage you to go there. And she invited people, send a picture from somewhere, wherever you're at in the world, and share it. So I don't know whether Sam's going to rejoin us, but we're going to assume that she's not. And we are at the end of the hour, so we'll just go ahead and wrap up. So thank you, Sam, for joining us today. Now, what am I going to do tomorrow? Tomorrow, I am going to interview Peter Panagori. He is the author of Heaven is Beautiful. He had a near-death experience, an NDE, and so he's going to tell us what this book is all about. I read it. It's a fascinating book, Heaven is Beautiful, and the subtitle is How Dying Taught Me That Death is Just the Beginning. How Dying Taught Me That Death is Just the Beginning. So great story. Join us tomorrow. And then on Friday, we have Kimberly Palm joining us, and we'll talk about living a purposeful life. All righty. Well, have a great rest of your day, everybody. And Donna checks in and says, I think creative people can express themselves in many different ways: art, music, dance, writing. Thank you, Donna. Absolutely. If you are a creative, you're going to bring that out in a whole variety of ways. All right. Well, thank you again, Serenity Sam. Again, serenitysam.co.uk is her website. Check her out. Thanks for joining us, Sam, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.